Hello. Today we will be discussing about bone tumors. So it's a general term or it's an umbrella term. Under this, there are many kind of tumors which are either malignant or benign tumor. So as basically what is benign tumors? They are not actually spreading from one side to other, or they are not actually metastasizing to any of the surrounding structures. But the malignant one are the exact opposite of benign tumor. It is actually spreading to the surrounding tissues and surrounding structures. So today we will be discussing about bone tumors in a general or in an introductory way. So first, these are the things which we are going to cover today. First one is classification. How we can classify this bone tumor either according to the site of lesion or according to the tissues which are consist of this tumor. Second one is clinical presentation. What kind of symptoms and signs are presented in these tumors or the carcinomas, and history. What will be the possible history for each of the patient and how we can examine this patient, what are the signs and symptoms which we need to look during the examination, and imaging technique, how we can identify the lesions as benign or malignant or as a carcinomas growth. So how we can do that? By imaging. We'll go for X-ray, MRI, CT scan, all those kind of things. So we will be discussing about imaging techniques and what are the laboratory investigations and findings, why we need to do the laboratory investigation, and what are the indications of laboratory investigations and biopsy, how we can interpret the biopsy, and what are the types of biopsy which we usually do in clinically. Next is the staging of bone tumors, how we can stage the bone tumor according to its growth and the site of lesion and the type of lesion, and why we need to do the staging of bone tumors. And next one is method of treatment. What are the regular methods? What are the treatment protocols which are commonly used in the treatment of carcinomas or in the treatment of any tumors which are associated with bone and the soft tissues? So first one is classification. How actually we can classify this bone tumors? So as I have said, bone tumor is an umbrella term under which there are many categories comes. So even if we look into the musculoskeletal system, the musculoskeletal system is consist of many varieties of tissues. We have cartilages, we have bone, we have osteochondrocytes, so we have the bone cells, and we have the surrounding adipose tissues, we have surrounding fibrous tissues. All these structures comes under the term of musculoskeletal system. So we need to classify the tumors arising in each of these structures based on its lesion type and the tissues which it consists of. So basically we are classifying the bone tumors based on the recognition of dominant tissues in the various lesions. So we look for the dominant tissue in each of these lesions. So according to which kind of tissue is dominating in the particular tumor, we are classifying the tumor under the particular tissue category. So first one is bone forming. All the tumors which are forming in the bone cells. So as I have said, we have two categories of tumors. First one is benign tumors and second one is malignant tumors. So benign tumors are no danger as much as malignant tumors, because benign tumor are situated in a particular site and it is not actually spreading to the surrounding structures. But when it comes to malignant, it is situated in particular site and it has its metastasis around in and around the tissue, and it can go for spread to the surrounding tissues also. So when it comes to the bone, what are the benign tumors which we can found in the bone? First one is osteoma, second one is osteoma, third one is osteoblastoma. So these are the three benign category tumors which we can found in bone, and the malignant ones are osteosarcoma, central peripheral periosteal, central and peripheral periosteal tumors. So these are the malignant one which we can found in the bone. Next one is cartilage forming. the tumors which are mainly composed of cartilage tissues. So in the cartilage forming benign tumors are chondroma, osteochondroma, chondroblastoma, chondromyxoid fibroma, and in malignant one chondrosarcoma, central and peripheral, juxtacortical, clear cell, mesenchymal tumors. So we will be covering all these tumors in later classes, but as of a, as of a, as of now, we need to classify all these tumors according to the predominant tissues in each of these tumors. So third one is fibrous tissue. The tumor which is composed of fibrous tissue. In that, the benign one are fibroma and fibromatosis, and the malignant one are fibrosarcoma. And mixed one, we have mixed type of tumor also. It is mixed with many kind of tissues. So that's actually a benign one which we called as chondromyxoid fibroma. Next we have giant cell tumors. In that, benign osteoclastoma and malignant osteoclastoma. So next one is bone marrow tumors. So basically the common bone marrow tumors which we can found are the Ewing's tumor and myeloma. Unfortunately, both of these bone marrow tumors are comes under malignant. So either because of a huge vascular supply to the bone marrow, with all those factors, both the Ewing's tumor and the myeloma comes under malignant one. So next is vascular tissues. The tumors which are arising in the vascular region in and around bone tissues. In the benign ones are hemangioma, hemangiome, pericytoma, hemangiome, endothelioma. So these are the benign ones, and malignant ones are angiosarcoma, malignant, hemangiome, pericytoma. So these are the malignant tumors which we can found in vascular tissues. And we have other connective tissues which are found either in the joint capsule or the structures which are related to the bones. So in the benign ones are fibroma, fibrous histiocytoma, and lipoma. In that malignant one, fibrosarcoma, malignant fibrous histiocytoma, and liposarcoma. And we have some other tumors also. So those are fibroneuroma and neuruloma. So these two are benign ones which we can found in other tissues, mainly in the nervous tissue or in the nerves. So the malignant one are adamantinoma and chondroma. So these are the basic classification how we can classify all the bone tumors according to the site of origin or according to the tissues which it is consist of. So that's about the classification. So when we talk about the classification are mainly done based on the tissues or the dominant tissues in each of these lesions. So in that we have bone forming lesions, cartilage forming lesions, fibrous tissue lesions, and we have mixed type of thing, giant cell tumors, marrow tumors, vascular tissues, and other connective tissues and other tumors. So these are the basic classification how we can classify all these tumors. Next one is clinical presentation, how these patients are presented with the symptoms and signs. So first one is history. So the history is often prolonged one, and this is unfortunately result in delay in obtaining treatment. So most of this cancerous growth are asymptomatic in the acute stage or in the beginning of this disease. So it will take a long time to appear with any of the signs or symptoms. So because of this unfortunately, because of this delay in identifying the signs and symptoms, the time for obtaining treatment may be delayed. Maybe in most of the cases, it can be completely asymptomatic until abnormality discovered in X-rays or in other investigation procedures. So most of these asymptomatic patients are diagnosed mainly by some X-rays which are not exactly meant for that particular conditions, but for something else they might have taken some X-ray. So in that they can show some bony changes which can indicate of bone lesions or bone tumors. And next one is age. Age may be a useful clue because there are some particular kind of lesions which are indicative of some kind of tumors in that particular age group. So many benign lesions are present during childhood and adolescence. So most of these bone tumors are present in the childhood or in adulthood. So chondrosarcoma and fibrosarcoma are typically occurred in older people. So there are some other bone tumors which are mainly seen in this childhood. So that's the importance of age when we are assessing the patient with clinical signs and symptoms of bone tumors. Next one is there will be a pain. So as we can see in most of the musculoskeletal conditions, pain is an indication of some pathologies. But when it comes to the cancer or the tumor growth, the type of pain will be unremitting pain. So the pain will be in continuous in nature. There won't be any aggravative factor. There won't be a particular aggravating factor or a relieving factor. So because it's a abnormal growth in the bone. So it may be caused by the rapid expansion with the stretching of surrounding tissues, or maybe because of central hemorrhage or a degeneration in the tumor. So there will be pain, but the type of pain will be unremitting kind of pain. It mainly caused by the stretching of surrounding tissues or stretching of surrounding structures, and there will be a swelling or lump. So as we can see in most of the cancerous growth, there will be some kind of lump or there can be a swelling. And there can be some neurological signs and symptoms, mainly paresthesia and numbness if the surrounding nerve tissues are damaged either due to the abnormal growth or the abnormal growth in the neural tissues. So all this kind of growth can involve in some neural changes or some signs and symptoms in neural structures. Mainly there can be a paresthesia, that variations in the sensation, and numbness. Actually there will be an absence of sensation. So these are the neural symptoms which can be found in the cancerous growth. Next one is pathological fracture. So as it names such, a pathological fracture is a fracture which is not caused by any traumatic reasons, but it's actually purely because of some internal disease to the bone turnovers. So basically pathological fractures are caused by weakening of bone or by any suspicious growth caused due to this bone tumors. So next is examination. So we need to examine all these signs which is presented, all the symptoms which is presented by the patient. So now we need to examine each of these things. We need to examine the lump, we need to examine the swelling, we need to examine the extent of effusion and whether the effusion is interrupting with the joint function or there is any limitation of movement. And we need to examine for any muscle spasm or back stiffness or painful scoliosis which can be caused by any tumors in the spinal or in the vertebral bodies. So if there is a lump, we need to look for where does it arise. Is it discrete or ill-defined? Is it solid or hard or pulsatile? So we need to look what are the properties of this lump, whether it is properly defined, it has a proper margin, or it is ill-defined. So ill-defined growths are much more indication for malignant tumors. So if it is a well-defined border lump, we can suspect a benign kind of tumor in that particular situation. So we need to look for the swelling, whether it is a diffuse kind of thing, whether the overlying tissue is warm and it is inflamed, or it got any signs of infection. So we need to rule out this particular swelling from the tumor. That there are other pathologies which can give you swelling of the soft tissues. So we need to rule out the exact cause why this swelling happens. So if you have inflammatory signs or if you have any infection sign for that particular swelling, we can actually rule out the problem of tumor. So it is mainly because of some infective condition. We can conclude that it can be mainly because of some infective conditions. So next one is effusion or limitation of movement. So if this abnormal growth or if this tumor is extending to the joint surfaces or it is giving some extension to the joint capsules or the joint surrounding tissues, it can be presented with some limitation of movement. So those are the things which we need to look in the examination thing. Next is imaging techniques. So the first and foremost imaging technique is the X-ray. So whenever we talk about musculoskeletal system, any pathologies in the musculoskeletal system are easily identified by the X-rays. So we will be going for plain X-rays. So there may be an obvious abnormalities in the bone. So as we can see in any of the pathologies which are relating to the bone, in tumor also we have some abnormalities which can be found in this bone tumors. So whenever we look in the X-ray, we have to define what type of bone is involved in this particular lesion, where is the lesion in the bone, whether the margins of lesion are well defined or an ill-defined lesions, is there is any calcification in the lesion, the cortex of bone is destroyed or not, whether there is any new periosteal bone formation, and we need to also look for whether this particular abnormal growth is extending to the surrounding soft tissues. So these are the questions which we need to look when we are asking for a plain X-ray in a patient with some suspicious bone tumor. So these are the things which we need to look in an X-ray. Next one is computer tomography. So one of the drawback of this X-ray is that we are not able to find how extent is this lesion. So we can say that there is a lesion in this cortical bone, but we are not much more sure that how much is the bone tumor extended to the bone or the surrounding tissues. So in that case, we are actually going for CT examinations. So it shows more accurately both introitious and extraneous extension of tumor and the relationship with the surrounding structure. So we can found some amount of extensions in the X-ray. So we can find that the abnormal growth is extending towards the surrounding tissues, but we are not much more accurate enough to tell that this particular growth has this much of extension. So in that case, we are asking for a CT examination. And the next one is MRI. So MRI is a diagnostic procedure which will give you a vast information about how this tumor are grown, what is the kind of tumor growth, and how much is the extension of this tumor growth. So the assessment of tumor, how long this tumor can be spread. So how long within the bone this tumor got spread into the whether it is involved in the nearby joints or whether it is involved in the surrounding soft tissue. So all this kind of thing can be answered with the help of MRI. Both blood vessel and the relationship of tumor to the perivascular space are well defined. So when we are asking for MRI, we will get a clear picture how long or how much the bone tumor got extended to the surrounding structures and what are the properties of this particular bone growth, whether it is well defined, ill defined, so whether it is endangering the surrounding soft tissues or whether it is going invasive or whether it is going for extraceous or an introducious kind of growth. So all this kind of thing can be identified in an X-ray. And next, the laboratory investigation. So mainly in laboratory investigation, blood tests are often, and why we need to do the blood test? We need to exclude the other conditions which can mimic the tumor growth, mainly any kind of infections or any metabolic disorders, all those kind of things, or any disorders which is caused by hyperparathyroidism. All these kind of tumor mimicking diseases has to be excluded in diagnosing this tumor. So we are going for blood test. So in this, first one is serum protein electrophoresis may reveal an abnormal globulin fraction. So this increase in globulin fraction can indicate a myeloma. Myeloma is basically an abnormal tumor growth in the bone marrow cells. So first one is serum protein electrophoresis, which may reveal abnormalities in globulin fraction. So if there is a high globulin content, it can be indicative of myeloma. And the urine may contain Bence-Jones protein in patients with myeloma. So that's why we are actually going for blood test. A raised serum acid phosphate suggestive of prostatic carcinoma. So these are the basic indicators which we are looking in blood test. So next is biopsy. So biopsy is something we are taking a sample of this particular growth and we are examining for histopathological changes in the particular growth. So first one is needle biopsy. So we are actually aspiring a part of this growth by the use of needle. So it is actually performed by a surgeon or by an experienced radiologist. So a large bore biopsy needles are mainly used for aspiration of this fluid. So next one is an open biopsy, and this is a more reliable way of obtaining a representative sample because we are actually opening the particular area and we are collecting that exact sample of this tumor. So as in needle biopsy, there can be some kind of bias while aspiring this content from the tumor. But if you're going for an open biopsy, we are actually opening the particular area and we are taking exact tissue or exact bone growth tissue. So those are the investigation part. Next one is staging of tumor. So why actually we need to stage this tumors? The lesion must be removed widely enough to ensure that it does not reoccur, but the damage must be kept to a minimum. So mainly the staging is done for treatment purpose. So we actually have to choose appropriate treatment according to the appropriate stage of lesion. So when we are staging each of this bone tumor, we are actually looking for how the tumor usually behaves, whether it is aggressive or it is non-aggressive. Aggressive mainly means that it's spreading to the surrounding tissues. It goes for metastatic growth. Second one is how far it is spread, how the spread is going on, whether it is a localized one or it is a area of spread. So these are the main two things which we are keeping in mind when we are going for staging of bone tumors. So aggressiveness, benign lesions by definition occupy the lowest grade. So even this group, there are important difference in behavior calling for further division into latent, active and aggressive lesion. So aggressiveness is whether it is benign or malignant. So in the benign lesions, we have much more, we have furthermore, we have divided the aggressiveness into latent, active and aggressive lesions. Latent means it's a well-defined margin, grows slowly and then it stops. So it is something like a benign one. It is not going for further growth. It it got its own growth and it stopped in that particular area and it is not going for any more metastasis. And second one is active. So in active, it's progressive growth limited by natural barriers. So active means it is growing, but it is not spreading to the surrounding tissues, but the growth is still there. Third one is aggressive. Growth is not limited by the natural barriers. So it's going for an uncontrolled growth. So that is happening in the aggressive stage. And when it comes to the malignant tumors, are furthermore divided into low grade and high grade. In low grade, only moderately aggressive and take long time for metastasis. So low grade means it going for spreading to the surrounding tissues, but it is taking a huge time to spread into the surrounding tissues. But in the high grade, it is very aggressive and metastasis early. So very aggressive, it going for high growth and it is also going for high spread in the surrounding tissues. So next is spread. How this spread, whether it is intracompartmental or extracompartmental. So spread, the local extent of tumor is the most important factor in deciding how much tissue has to be removed. If it is an intercompartmental thing, so we have to remove a small portion of this particular growth, and if it is an extracompartmental growth, we have to go for excision of that whole area. So that's why we need to look for spread. First one, we're looking for aggressive, how aggressive the tissue growth are. Second one is how the spread is affecting, whether it is intracompartmental or it is an extracompartmental growth. And there is also something called as surgical staging. So the surgical procedure is actually based on staging of this tumor. So it is mainly for selecting which operation or which surgical procedure is best suited for this particular growth. So staging of tumor is an important step towards selecting the operation best suited for this particular patient or best suited for the stage of this particular tumor. So in the stage one is all low grade sarcomas, second one is histologically high grade lesions, and third stage is sarcoma which have metastasis. So these are the three staging which is commonly done in surgical staging. So when it comes to surgical staging, there is also one more thing called as A and B. So basically A for intracompartmental and B for extracompartmental. So this is actually how the staging is done by Enneking. So Enneking added this one more system, that A and B, whether it is low grade and intercompartmental, whether it is low grade and extracompartmental. So 1A means it's a low grade intracompartmental without any metastasis. So this is how the staging done for the operational staging. And next one is staging of soft tissue tumors. So soft tissue tumors are mainly done by the TNM classification. So TNM mainly for the size, whether the lymph node are involved, and whether it is growing metastasis or not. So the histological grade, there is also one more thing is called as histological grade from low to high, that 1 to 3 is also given according to the growth of that particular tissue. So this is the basic TNM classification, how we can stage this soft tissue tumors. So that is about the investigations. Next is method of treatment. So what are the common methods of treatment which is available for the treatment of tumor or a cancerous growth in bone tissues? First one is tumor excision. So it's a surgical procedure. We are excising that particular growth. So in that we have intracapsular excision, marginal excision, wide excision, and radical excision resection. So these are the main 4 type of excisions which are used in the tumor treatment. So first one is intracapsular excision and the curettage. So basically intracapsular excision is the excision of that particular part. So this is the tumor growth. So we are excising that the growth, and with the curettage. Curettage is something like we are scraping that area of lesion until we can found a normal healthy tissue. So that's the intracapsular excision. So we are exciting that particular part and we are going for curettage. That basically we are scrapping the bone, the abnormal growth thing, till we can found a normal tissue, normal healthy tissue. Next one is marginal excision. It goes beyond the tumor, but only just surrounding the bone tumor. So in the marginal excision, so this is the marginal excision. We are not actually excising the tumor, but we are going for the surrounding structures, but not too far. But the surrounding structures are also exist in the marginal excision. So next one is wide excision. It implies that the dissection is carried out well clear of the tumor to the normal tissue. So in the wide excision, we are excising that particular area of lesion. So last one is radical excision, means the entire compartment in which the tumor lies is removed by block without exposing the lesion. So if it is a radical excision or radical resection, we are taking the whole part. If we have tumor with that particular bone, we are taking the whole bone. We are resecting that whole bone. So that is radical resection. And the next treatment is amputation for low-grade tumors, or if there is any doubt about whether the lesion is intracompartmental or an extracompartmental, the amputation is suggested. So one of the aim for this amputation is to opt for an early rehabilitation process. So in a cancer patient, the rehabilitation is much more important as like the tumor specified treatment. So the rehabilitation has to be started as much as earlier as possible. So if there is any susceptibility that the particular bone growth has gone for metastasis and it got for extracompartmental growth, the best thing which the surgeon opts for is amputation. So the particular part will be amputated and the patient will be sent for early rehabilitation and for an early normal life. And next one is multi-agent chemotherapy. So we are using drugs to control this particular growth or to abolish this particular growth. So the drugs currently used are methotrexate, doxorubicin, or the andriamycin, a cyclophosphamide, vincristine, and cisplatin. So these are the common drugs which are used for the treatment of abnormal bone growth. So basically the treatment is started 8 to 12 weeks pre-operatively. So even if the patient is going for operative procedure, we have to look for this chemotherapy to know the effectiveness of this particular drug and if we can control this particular growth by the chemotherapy. So we have to look for that. So next one is radiotherapy. High energy irradiation has long been used for destroy the radiosensitive tumors or as adjunctive therapy before the operation. So we can use this radiotherapy also to limit this tumor growth or to abolish this tumor growth. But one of the main complications of this radiotherapy are the occurrence of post-irradiation spindle cell carcinoma and pathological fractures in weight-bearing bones, particularly in proximal half of the femur. So one of the complications for this radiotherapy is that it going for weakening of the bone. So it is not actually specified for that particular abnormal tumor growth. So it can destroy the adjacent cells also. So that can result in some kind of pathological fracture in future. So that's about the tumors in general. For incoming classes, we will be discussing about each of these bone tumors separately.